Today, welcome. Okay, how are we gonna
We
introduce
should
this?
welcome our very special guest and first guest, Mr. Younkin. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, my name is Mr. Sean Younkin. I work here in city schools. I work at two of our elementary schools, elementary and elementary. Further, I also teach high school marching band, and that is what I do professionally here.
Yeah.
Ain't that cool? Alright. So, yeah, we're gonna get started
Yeah, okay.
with asking our first question, which is actually the title and the whole basis for this. What is your favorite color?
My favorite color is blue.
Is there a reason for that? You just...
It's just always been my favorite color. Haven't had a reason yet. Maybe one will come up. We'll see.
Alright.
Maybe.
Yeah, very safe answer, I'd say.
Also, we apologize for the rain sounds in the back. If you fall asleep, not on us.
Also, the Civil War cannon that just went off, that might be a little bit disruptive, but it's whatever.
Whatever. Anyways, the second question is, what was the inspiration for you teaching? Did you always want to do it, or was there something that really pushed you to teach?
I didn't always want to be a teacher. I grew up playing music, being a music teacher now suggests that. When growing up, I started learning how to play guitar and learning how to play bass guitar. I wanted to be a rock star, just like a Flea from the Hot Chili Peppers was a big hero back then. As you get older, as a musician, you start realizing there's realistic paths to being a professional musician, and very lucky, unrealistic paths to being a professional musician. The more realistic path is teaching. Luckily, once I got into it, I found that's what I absolutely love to do, and wouldn't change any of it.
If you got signed to a big record deal right now, would you drop everything and stop teaching?
So, now that's a little bit, there's a 30-minute answer to that. I'll give the 1-minute answer to that.
Alright.
Probably yes, because a super huge record deal comes once. I can go be a rock star for 3 years, be a one-hit wonder, whatever that looks like in a professional music career, and then I can just go back to teaching. There's no reason I can't do that.
Alright.
Seems like you've thought about this.
Seems like you have thought about this like a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, without name dropping, I have a friend I grew up playing music with, who is a fairly famous musician now. I'd say like a second-tier famous musician now. And while unlikely, there exists a world where, they come to town, we play whatever, pipe dream sort of thing. But you're only a couple, degrees, 6 degrees of heaven bacon away from someone famous. So the thought crosses the mind, and then there's away somewhere else.
Alright. Well, I do hope one day, if you do, you plug this podcast, be like, actually, humble beginnings. I want you guys to listen to this.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
If anything happens to Flea,
Gosh,
Yeah.
Hey, they'll give you a call.
My childhood hero.
he's invincible. I feel
Okay.
like.
How have students changed since the COVID-19 pandemic for you personally?
So it's really hard to say exactly what changed. Obviously, it affected everyone differently. I wasn't at the elementary level when I was teaching. I was teaching high school back then. And then kind of after the pandemic is when I went to elementary. So I kind of I switched levels, so I don't really have a good grasp on everything that's changed, oddly enough. Well, not answer, but I don't know.
Do you notice, this might sound strange coming from a student's perspective because we don't really see a change, but do you notice a difference between the younger students and the older students?
Oh yeah. There's certain things that are the same. There's a lot of difference. But it's the same differences you see in all older people versus younger people. You see different trends, you see different brands of humor. But I think maybe, the kind of thing you might be trying to touch on is students who are younger seem much more willing to try to learn.
Oh.
And I think that comes from it's such a fresh thing to them that by the time you get to high school, you've been doing the school thing. It almost seems like an obligation, not an opportunity. Versus these elementary kids like, well, I've never done this before. I'm learning math just like mom knows how to do math, now I know how to. Like, it's exciting to them. And even at the elementary level, like seeing the kindergarten excitement versus they get to the 4th grade, 5th grade, the upper levels, you can kind of see them starting to morph into these middle school little, frankly, demons who, I'm kidding y'all, not demons. And it's the joys, and part of that is growing up. You know, you're like, the human brain does morph a little bit. The different chemicals happening in the brain, you change when you get older. And that's a part of it too, but I think that is the biggest difference I see. Is going from one to the other, even in a day, you know, just how joyful and like loving it can be at that level, and how almost spiteful. Like sometimes high school, no offense to you two, you guys learn in spite of what we're trying to accomplish. And there's obvious exceptions to all of this. I have very spiteful elementary kids, I have very joyful high school kids. It's just the mean, kind of the center is, that's how I feel.
Well, do you feel like with what you were talking about with growing up and it becoming an obligation, do you think that's why so many students like turn disrespectful to other teachers, or they just get such a disinterest in learning?
The disinterest in learning, I'll agree to that. Yeah, I think that's part of that happens. And part of that is it's easier to learn something simple than it is to learn something complex. So the physical and mental effort you put into it changes. From a level of disrespect, there's a few reasons for that. One is simply teenagers are disrespectful. Your brain wants you to go against authority. Like, that is how a teenage brain works. And like, I know that, and in the moment it's really hard to remember that sometimes, but that in development from childhood to adulthood, there is a path in there that you as a person push back against authority. That is like an aspect of it that is part of normal growth. So there's a level of kind of that disrespect pushback that, while I don't believe is acceptable, is understandable. The other part is, and this is where we get into like generational things, I personally don't think kids have changed a ton. The things they do, the things they're interested in, there's definite changes like throughout history, but what has changed in teaching, I've seen it because I grew up in a family of teachers. My mother's a teacher, grandmother's a teacher, teachers everywhere, and uncles teachers. Is really the societal disrespect towards teachers. And students of all ages will basically mirror that to their teachers. If, back in the day, if the teacher said you were doing something, you were doing that thing.
Yeah.
Like, I was being disrespectful, I was being disrespectful. My parents took care of that at home, they just didn't say things. I don't think so. I had grandparents. That happened at home. What we see a lot today, and it's not just parents, and it's not all parents, but we see this pushback against the authority of the teacher by media, people at home, wherever it's coming from, and that reflects itself in the students. So I think an increased level of disrespect does come from, when I say the home, it's not strictly parents, but the home. Parents, plus playing on screens and TVs, being written down in newspapers, those sort of things become emblematic of how we do things in society.
Yeah.
I can totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I do think a lot of media today has turned against, well, it's not only teachers, it's turned against against a lot of authority figures while also putting other authority figures like on a pedestal.
Well, it's just like the political zeitgeist of the time. I feel like, think about like what kids are hearing at home and like the worries they have and about what they're seeing on TV and like just general political unrest through times. It's not typically unique to now.
Yeah.
But like even other times, like imagine like going to school in like the 70s and like all this stuff is going on with like the Vietnam War, and then like your teacher is like, saying something to you and you're like, why do I have to listen to you? The world is on fire.
Yeah.
It is cyclical. Like that sort of thing is cyclical, and we are at a divisive point in the cycle of that. And we'll get out. Like something always changes. Like the only thing that stays the same is that things change. We'll get through it.
That we will.
That we will.
What do you think needs to be common context for the day-to-day person when interacting with teachers?
I would, with big statistics, I would say 95% of teachers, their main intention is to have a safe environment for students to learn. And they want that student to learn and be successful and be safe and be successful, be fruitful in this world. They don't want a kid to be broken. You don't want a kid to do the wrong thing. You don't want a kid to do anything other than absolute best, and like so society grows, so that students, income or social skills can grow. We don't want that for any of the kids ever. And yes, we get a paycheck. It's not a very big paycheck, but it's one that keeps a roof over my head and more importantly my dog's head. And that
Very important.
if I wanted to just make money and slog by and get a summer break, I would do something else. I would find some other way. I'd find a work at home job where it's super flexible. Because I'd be making about the same amount of money, way less stress. No, teachers want to teach. It's what they want to do because there are not enough perks in the process. Otherwise, other than the joy you get from the activity of teaching and seeing young minds grow and become people in school.
I don't think a lot of students understand that.
Yeah.
Especially with mean or strict teachers. They just see them as a strict teacher who doesn't care.
I'll say this, strict teachers were never always strict teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's different philosophies on classroom management, because a teacher is strict for classroom management, and a teacher is strict for creating high standards in their room. Those are the two reasons a teacher loves. Some can't do one without the other, and that's their style. Some can do one without the other, and that's great. Like, to me, the best teacher is the one who holds you to a high standard and you have no idea it's happening. You just come out like, oh, I didn't really learn anything, and then you get asked a question about that class and you have every single answer, because that teacher found a way to hold you to that high standard without it being thrown on your head and so obtuse. Some can't do that. It's here nor there, but that's kind of what comes from that sort of thing. I didn't separate all of that.
Do you consider yourself a strict teacher?
Yeah.
Oh.
Not even a little bit. No. Like my goal is to be that standards without feeling like you're being required to be pushed to the high standard. Like I might get animated, but that's more. It's really more of an act. When I'm teaching, and she can attest to this because she's in marching. I teach her.
Oh, I bet. Oh, I know that schedule.
Yes. So I might look, frustrated with the moment. I might be like, raise my voice slightly, but it's almost all an act. So it's not an act because I don't care, but an act because I know what I can look at the students and know what they need. At a high school level, maybe slightly more strict, but at the lower level, I'm firm with my rules. And I'm very, if you break a rule, there's just a clear consequence to that. I never raise my voice about it. I never do anything of that nature, because the students want to feel safe on the teacher. If I'm an adult man, if I raise my voice as an adult man at a young child, that child is scared of me at that point. Fear is so much harder to get through than getting a kid to rein it in because I let them have a little too much. So now I'm not sure, but no, I hold very high standards in my classroom. If we're not doing a thing the right way, the way it's supposed to be done, we're gonna stop. We're gonna do it the right way. We're gonna do every aspect and procedure correctly. So I guess in that way, if you want to call that strict, cool, call me strict. But I'm not strict in the manner of, regimented drill sergeant, kind of the what everyone thinks of as a strict teacher.
Oh.
Where do you, I know this is hard because you're a band teacher, and I guess there aren't a lot of technology around you. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I'm a choir kid. Sorry, I'm different kind.
So different.
Yep, so different. But where do you think the line is for analog and digital teaching for you specifically?
To me, it's not a line; it's a balance. So, too much analog and not utilizing the technologies we have available to us is naive. Too much digital and not going back to the analog manners of teaching, I don't think is very helpful to our students today, because almost where we live, there are, well, some very few kids in the area whose families don't have a computer, don't have a tablet, don't have a phone, those sort of things, where they have a screen. And if I just freaking barrel into digital, I'm going to lose them in 15 minutes because they don't have it. So it's rather than a line, it's the balance of how much analog, how much digital am I using, how am I blending them together. I do a lot of that in my classroom. In the elementary room, the curriculum they give us has a lot of things that develop music production in it. I don't use a ton of it for them. Music producing, they're not ready for that. But what I do is we'll make a little beat together, and then everything else we do is analog that day to that beat, and they love it. So they feel like they're like using technology, because they are, but then everything they're actually physically doing themselves is very analog thing, very, instruments, physical touch, hardware, as opposed to a software, a screen, 3 inches from the face. But there's moments for that. There's great tools that exist in that realm. And it's just finding the right ones and how much you use them.
How do you feel about not so much teachers depending on technology, but the fact that our world is turning into one that is so dependent on technology?
It's it scares me in a sense that I want to use the technology to make my life easier. I don't want to use technology to exist. I'm sitting there, I'm doing groceries, making sure I'm staying with my budget. I want to use the calculator to add up all the totals. Or there's even ChatGPT now. Hey, what's the approximate price of these 8 things together from Kroger, whatever.
Yeah.
I want to have that tool. That's awesome. That saves me 20 minutes. What I don't want is a world where that tool stops working and I can't achieve what I'm trying to achieve in regards to like basic human things, basic human interaction, basic human living. Like, I need to know math. I need to know how to generally cook, to provide for myself, family, etc. But the biggest thing is, and my mother described this to me a million times, it should be a tool, not a crutch. Using it as a crutch is a problem, especially in education. Students don't need to know how to do so many of these things. But, there's a reason that companies put money in these technologies, why scientists research these things and create these things, why engineers do what they do to advance technology, because it's helpful. It makes our lives easier, but it shouldn't become what our lives are.
Interesting answer. All right. How do you feel about students that struggle with connecting with your style of teaching, and how do you overcome it if you do?
Okay, it is 99% my job to teach the student in front of me. That 1% is the parent driving it. If I have a student in front of me who is not agreeing with my style of teaching, like isn't learning the way I'm teaching them, I need to adjust. There needs to be some sort of change made. And you learn that as a teacher when you're in school. It's called differentiating instruction. That's like the fancy ed term. You get multiple ways to learn in your class. An example, when I'm teaching students music and we're teaching music, you play it for them so they can hear it. That's oral. You say it, you give the instructions verbally. That's oral. You put it on the screen or a piece of paper. That's visual. Those are 3 ways to learn right there. doing different ways at all times gets most kids. Now, occasionally, you'll have a student, for one reason or another, isn't checking it. And that needs to be, your goal needs to be as few of those as possible. You put that. In that case, you do your best, you track what they're doing, you inform parents, hey, this isn't happening in my room. Now, meeting a music teacher, it happens, because not every kid ends up being a musician, because music's not in the home, it's not something they play for after elementary school. Ultimately, if I did everything I could on my end, I differentiated, I did everything for that kid, worked my butt off, you're going to have another teacher one day, and hopefully that teacher will.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, you can reach most of your kids if you're doing the right stuff, if you're working hard. You're going to have that one or two that you miss, and then you pass them on, you pass them along to the next teacher. You know they're going to work hard and they're going to get them.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta charge it to the game.
You just gotta, gotta make it through.
Yeah.
What is a piece of media that influenced your life at any point?
All right. So.
This is why we sent out the questions
Yeah.
beforehand.
Yeah.
So, and this was the couple I put from like, okay, cool. That one right there. Being in the arts, teaching a fine art.
Yeah.
There's a lot. For me, I decided to go with the answer that kind of pushed me into the world of teaching as opposed to the world of performance. When I went to college, I started as music education, but it was really more so of the like, oh, you want to go into music, you get the music ed degree because that's the safe degree to get. It's the one that that actually has a vocational end goal. And then there's an activity, you know this activity quite well, Emma. It's called drum and music corps. It's like marching band, no woodwinds though, so it's the brass lines, percussion, all that stuff, color guard. In America, it's kind of the highest level of marching band that exists.
Oh.
It's like the best players, but it's really interesting because it's actually only ages 16 through 21 that participate in it. And what you do is you go all summer, you audition for a group, you make the group, you go that summer, and you spend every single day of that summer for about 8 to 10 hours a day rehearsing, performing your marching band show every day. And it is the most grueling marching, grueling playing that occurs in that setting. When I was my freshman year of college, kind of the summer between freshman and sophomore, I went to a show and saw a group called the Phantom Regiment. And just the power they played with, music, like it was inspiring to me. So I was like, I'm gonna do that. And then I went, auditioned, luckily I'm a pretty good tuba player, made it, passed audition, got into the group, marched for 2 seasons before I was then too able to do it. And doing that activity is what really pushed me into wanting to be a band director, being a music teacher. It's just my experience there. So the piece of media I would suggest is actually not that 2013 show by Phantom Regiment, but it's their 2010 production. It's Phantom Regiment. The show is entitled Into the Light. It's this very ethereal show. Kind of the concept it talks about it's like concept of life and death. It uses this really beautiful piece of music by a mostly film composer, but did like some other stuff. One of his non-film scores. I think Michael Kamen, they kind of take different parts of that work and kind of structure the whole show around it. And it's just like the emotional leaps and bounds it takes you on and how good they are in their performance of it is just, it's awesome. And it completely changed kind of my path in life and music and everything that I do.
I'm gonna be so honest, that sounds like the Marine Corps but for band.
Well, you're not wrong. There is one professional drummer. To do those groups, you have to pay money to them.
Oh.
There is one professional drum and bugle corps that exists, and it is the Marine Corps drum and bugle corps. So you are not wrong in your observation.
I will say I have seen some band videos, and even when I went to one football game, and it was just to see Emma perform. And I'm gonna be so honest, I cried. It was just the band at our school was so good that it made me cry. It was the. I think that was what it was. It was so good, and I could not imagine. And then you came after, and you're like, so bad. It was so bad. And I was like, are you serious? If that was bad, imagine. I would have died if I would have seen like a good one. I would have been a crying heap on the floor.
That goes back to holding them to a high standard.
Yeah.
I would think strict versus high standard. Yeah.
I absolutely see that. You just gotta keep it pushing, especially in music.
Little rascals. All right, so okay.
Away
so
from music, into the learning.
Yeah. If you could change one thing about the school system, what would you change?
Okay, let's go with me.
Yeah, we're not cops.
Yes.
I mean,
Don't worry.
I mean, well,
Um,
we're not mandated reporters.
Yeah.
you gotta pay the teachers more money.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
It's
Bottom line.
like, that's the easy answer. Like, that's a simple answer, but it's true. Because paying the teachers more money will do so many good things for the system. It'll make sure that teachers are staying in. So instead of having 3 and 4 year teachers, recycling that every 5 years, you're gonna have people who are 20 years teachers. Well, someone who's been doing something for 20 years is often better than someone who's been doing something for 4 in most instances. You have your occasions, but that's the general rule. So you're gonna have people involved. Those people are gonna actually be able to live in the communities that they teach. So they're going to be more a part of their community, which is also going to push them to stay in longer. This next part's a little cynical, I admit, but there's this mindset out there that teaching is a second-class profession. And that comes from, there's this old phrase that finance bros used to say called, if those who can't do, teach. Which simply isn't a true thing.
No.
And it does go back to a historical setting that, unfortunately, people still believe it is I'm putting this in air quotes for those listening, a woman's job. Which is part, calling it that, which I completely dispel and disagree with. Even if it was a woman's job, it should still be a very paying job. It's a vital part of our society.
He's an ally.
But it's not that. And getting a little sidetracked on that. That's another reason why that sort of thing is happening. But it's going to be bad. It's going to get more respect. It's going to keep people in longer. It's going to get people who normally wouldn't go into education, very, very bright minds, see education as a good avenue. So many people who would be phenomenal teachers don't go into teaching because it doesn't pay as well as other jobs that very intelligent right person can do. So paying teachers and the whole also staff, everyone involved. Lunch attendants, janitorial staff, those people are just as important as teachers in the whole process.
Absolutely.
Raising the wages of those people is, to me, the fastest. It's hard. You gotta convince people to raise their taxes. Is the easiest, is the simplest way to improve school system. Well, I'm not even talking about our school system here. I'm talking about that is like my generalized statement to the whole thing.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Yeah, same.
Just like seeing, I know in my economics class, I'm not gonna say, I don't wanna, also we're probably gonna have to bleep Houston, just so
That's
people,
fine.
it's just that.
That's fine.
But I know in my economics class, the teacher showed us her paycheck. She was like, it is not, well, it's economics, so she like showed it to us, and it is not a lot. Like, it's insane how little people get paid, and I'm surprised that they're able to live off of it.
Yeah.
Some take second jobs. I gig around town, so my supplemental is that of the gig economy. So actually does it compared to other districts, a very good job with benefits and a very good job with pension bonuses by comparison in other areas of the state. So I'm by no means poo-pooing my bosses. We're talking at a societal level. That is how I feel on that.
I do have to agree. That is a good answer. Okay, this might be you just repeating an answer, honestly, but if you could recommend a piece of media to young minds like your students, what would it be?
So that's a tough answer because it's really hard to recommend art to a kid without coming off like an old fogey.
Yeah. We don't think you're an old head.
Back in my day, this was the good stuff. No. So with like, you know what movie I saw a couple years ago, like Work for Your Generation, and really like I love too, that I thought was a really good demonstration of kind of what a lot of music teachers specifically, but any sort of fine art teacher or any teacher in general goes through, is that Pixar movie Soul.
Oh, I love
Soul.
Soul.
The path he goes on,
Yeah.
like, oh, I was like, ooh, that was me about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, just, and my teacher, like, you know, just the idea he goes through the thoughts of like, you know, inferiority complex, you know, not thinking, even when he gets to the gig, he's like, did I really get to that part? And as a musician, you might do this already, you'll start doing it soon eventually, and you're like,
Oh,
you watch
exciting.
you watch these movies, especially animated ones about music, where like they're making music on an instrument, and you watch it, and you're like, that guy's not playing that thing.
Oh, yeah.
Which is obvious because you know when they film the way they want the sound to work, it's never going to be played live.
Yeah.
But no one even showed that person how to do that. Like they hold the instrument wrong. The way they animated the playing
Oh, yeah.
and like all those things with that was so spot on. And I watched a video. They recorded people actually playing the music, like a live set, and they just animated what they recorded, like down to like saxophone hand positions, piano hand positions, like chef's kiss. But the greater message of that is the one I would suggest. Like, you want to know what's going on in at least this teacher said and a lot of others I know, the movie's still.
It's a beautiful movie, yeah. And like I know like they probably started working on that movie maybe like 2017 'cause it came out in 2020.
Yeah.
So like imagining like them finishing up that movie and like all those artists that like, you know, they probably moved to other places to like work at Pixar. And Pixar's like iconic for their layoffs. They love to lay off people.
And like at that time the big like COVID it hit a lot of industries hard. The gig economy, so like any sort of event economy disappeared. Like,
Yeah.
unless you also already had a digital footprint, like you no longer work. Like so I know with some of them watching that movie too, like that were really deep in the gig economy, like it was a lot.
Yeah.
I think that also goes into paying animators more with
Yeah.
Pixar because of how beautiful it is.
And give
that
your
it-
yeah.
I mean that's a separate but similar conversation.
Yes. I just
Give your artists benefits. Don't just, you know, like how the companies like to do, like lease them for like 6 weeks and so they don't have to give them benefits.
also
And then-
don't use AI. If there are any, they're not. But if there are any big producers,
There are.
Walt Disney's Ghost.
Disney just made like a huge deal that like they said they're gonna start incorporating AI way more. So did Pixar. They laid off a ton of people recently.
Oh my DreamWorks.
So
did
it's
Yeah.
that's a tough conversation. Like it goes back to tool versus crunch.
Yes.
Like if you're hiring an animator and it saves that animator 12 hours
Yeah.
to use like, oh, instead of scrubbing this down, letting my computer do it for, you know, sitting there pressing this one button, I have an AI that I can say, do this tool thing. Because AI has actually existed longer than
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's now grown to the point where non-experts can use it.
Yeah.
To that extent, I like it. But you're 100% right. Like we don't need AR and XR. I saw from the absolutely phenomenal place Tumblr post.
Oh yes.
It was
smells
posted
in
somewhere
here.
else. I'm not on Tumblr.
It smells.
Don't go looking.
Really? We are. I'm sorry. It's a safe space.
Who's we?
But it was like a screenshot of a Tumblr post. Whatever. I don't know.
On Pinterest?
Pinterest.
I get Tumblr posts
Tumblr
on
posts are
Pinterest.
everywhere.
I ain't on Pinterest.
I mean,
You should get
nobody's
into
shaming
Pinterest.
you.
I feel like you would love it.
My fiance's on it all the time.
Oh.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
Just dopamine
Then,
city.
so, what was I saying? It said something along the lines of, you know, when I thought AI was gonna, like, do my laundry so I could make art, Instead of making my art so I could do laundry, I liked it, but now I needed to go away. Like that was that. I think that tweet kind of illustrates the whole thing. Like
It was a tweet on Tumblr.
or tweet or what?
It's
I mean, that is what
I'm
happens.
sounding like an old man right now. Twitter's not, it's not Twitter anymore. Yeah.
No, we still call it Twitter in this house.
Yeah, this is a Twitter
This is a
household.
Twitter household.
Yes. All right. But yeah, so that's kind of where I am on that.
We should probably go to the next question,
Yeah.
guys.
Perfect segue. Imagine Star Wipe. Shall I?
Yes.
If you could create your own course, what would you have the students do?
It kind of already exists. I'm kind of a we don't need to reinvent the wheel here type of teacher. Like great teaching has been happening. All you really need is think great teaching concepts, put them to maybe what's happening in the world. I think as a complete elective, so music teachers don't come at me right now. I think a meme music production class would be so cool. Like and this would probably be more like the community college, university style class. You couldn't get the same percent for high school or middle school, what have you.
Yeah.
But you take like a meme or like a TikTok sound or whatever it is that like little 40-second clip. You're like, okay, why is this funny? How did this get famous? What is happening musically here? Almost have to be like historic because like internet, like media and like entertainment has kind of become its own thing. It has its own history to it now.
Yeah.
You know, even back in like when I was starting college, Vine was the new big thing.
Rip Vine.
Gotta love Vine, and I remember there was one guy
Okay.
in my dorm
Miss Vine.
who became Vine famous. Like he was like,
Who? Name drop.
Yeah.
all right, what's up, Darius? Mr. Legendarius, if you ever heard of him.
We're about to look up.
Did he do backflip?
So, his biggest, like, the thing that made him most famous does have some foreign language in it.
We'll bleep it out.
So I'm not,
We're both adults. We'll bleep it out.
I'm not suggesting this, that it's not funny. I'm just quoting that he's Vine famous. Bad language, don't use it.
The big disclaimer before we bleep it out.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he got famous on there, and he still makes stuff on like YouTube, but Vine was really his like go. But like understanding that versus like early YouTube where like people would post like a cover of them playing Wonderwall on their guitar and get a million views, and now that person's like the most famous YouTuber versus now it's like conglomerates. Like that would be a cool like thing to look at. It's just like how music has changed because of the internet. How songwriting has changed because of the internet, specifically like this short format of like TikTok and Vine, and just how we now listen to things because of that.
I kind of want to make a joke. I want to slide in there what ricocheted off of the Wonderwall is the TikToks of guys picking up a song. Anyway, here's Wonderwall.
That comes from my era. That is my era of jokes.
I'm thinking about one right now where it's a vampire who can play anything. Here's Wonderwall. I think that was a tweet.
A tweet.
Anything. Here's Wonderwall.
Yeah, we'll put it in the video.
Now Oasis getting back together finally. So
I saw that.
Even more. The brothers finally settled their beef.
I really can't
Oh my
wait.
God.
I can't wait for the memes.
Yeah, I gotta bust out like my dark wash jeans and my green t-shirt. I'm gonna get a bowl cut.
The Galaxy
Yeah.
jeans. Or the Galaxy leggings.
Oh yeah,
2007.
I
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I was in high school. All right.
Well, anyways, next one.
Yeah, it smells like talcum powder in here now. It smells like soap.
We can't go back. We can't go back to that era.
Yeah.
Anyways,
It smells.
it smells like a Bath and Body Works cheap perfume. Anyways,
does.
is
It
there a
does indeed.
teacher that influences your teaching to be one way, or that you went against their way of teaching? This can be like right now if you see your coworker,
Air 'em
name
out.
drop, and say I do not like their teaching.
No.
So?
No. And the name I'm about to say is actually a very good teacher. Everyone, I try to stay out of other teachers' like business because like ultimately I may disagree with the way a teacher does a certain thing, like at a school-wide level. But as long as they're staying within like the main goal, like keeping the main thing, I don't really worry about it because it's better that me and that teacher have a good rapport with each other, and the students can see that, than for me to agree with every little decision a teacher makes. It's as big as like the district-wide, school-wide, or even when we're in the marching band stuff. Like, there are, across all those fields, there might be a decision that's like, oh, I might have done that differently. But it's not a bad decision, and it's not harmful for the kids. It's still going to positively affect them. I don't need to worry about it. As far as like seeing bad teaching, because good teaching doesn't exist without bad teaching existing, because then it would just be called teaching and we wouldn't have any issues ever.
Yeah.
In my upbringing, I did see have a few bad, not so much I was under them, but witnessed bad band directing. And the only thing, there's one teacher I have in mind that I'm not going to name, because this teacher is people know this person. Just over yelling, over everything, without instruction. There's a time to get animated. There is a time to get loud, but it has to be backed up with improvement, with love, and wanting to get better. And this teacher hated his job, hated the other people around him, hated the. I say hated the kids, hated what the kids represented. He was just burnt. He's not a teacher anymore. So it's not even what you're thinking of now.
Okay.
But this person's just And I saw the way he was talking to students, I was like, I will never be that person. And when I get frustrated with a student, because it happens, we get frustrated.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
Kids are mean.
You're stupid. One more time.
Oh my gosh, you're taking me back to work. I'm trying to escape. No.
When I get frustrated with students, when I am just, feeling a little burnt out, I think about that person. I think, do I want to reflect as that person reflected on me? No. So even if I'm having moments where, not the happiest day of the age, because everything has been good and bad days, I just think of that person and say, I'm not that person.
Yeah.
And it helps. It helps me view it in a more optimistic light.
Gets you out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
If you have.
That's actually my dog. He's on the door.
What's your dog's name?
The dog's name is Griff. He is 60 pounds of dumb. He's a little pit bull, like a brindle, got the white and the kind of brindle black on it. Just the dumb that's really cute and adorable.
Yes.
Yeah, not him. He's just really unintelligent.
Is Griff short for anything, or is that just his name?
Short for Griffey. I grew up a huge baseball fan, and when I was a child, my favorite player that wasn't on the was now the Cleveland Guardians. Because I grew up half my life in Akron, Ohio, half my life here, so huge Cleveland sports fan, unfortunately. And
We'll unpack that later.
So I had favorite player, and I think about my favorite player, hero at the time, wanted to be was Ken Griffey Jr. because he was just he was superstar, just amazing, awesome, and always my favorite baseball player. So I named him Griffey after and Griffey Jr.
When you get mad at him, do you call him Griffin? Or
No, and you know, there's a whole trend, and we do it too. No one actually calls their dog by their real name anymore. It's it's Griff, it's Griffey, Gryffindor, Griffles. My fiance calls him Gripperton.
Oh my goodness.
I like that.
We call him Ribs, Ribble, Robs, and just find a syllable, a sound, with a GR in front of it. We call him.
Whenever my dog's name is Chase, and whenever I get mad at him, I call him Chase-Tipper. And he never responds to it. He's Chase-Tipper. And he actually listens to it.
That's a trouble name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. I think this is the very last question, unless you have any questions that you want us to ask. What change do you want to come out of this podcast? And piggybacking off that, to keep in your mind, what do you actually think is going to happen?
So, change coming out of the podcast is simply, I'd like to see just people your age to kind of hear somebody my age who's in teaching, everyone's in school every day, just understand our point of view, understand how we really do have your best intentions in mind. But I feel like that is lost a lot. And just kind of, breaking down the teacher and student barrier from the standpoint of understanding.
Yeah.
What I think will come out of it, if I'm being brutally honest, not much. Mostly because, and it's nothing against all or anything you're doing.
Of course not.
It is simply a pessimistic view on where media is today. It's just the deluge and amount of media we have available to us. Like 95% gets lost in the shuffle of everything you see. Oh, you saw that, you swiped it, and you haven't thought about it again. You name every TikTok you've seen? No, you can't.
Well, let's think about it.
Unless you're one of those, like,
I say
back in my day we called it a Rain Man, which is,
I've seen Rain Man,
and stuff, and that was like, it was a movie where
there was this guy.
some things in it are not aged well.
Explaining it
People
to
with
kids.
developmental issues.
Yeah.
But like that was a common phrase people used back for people my age. Unless you're that person where you just have that memory, like level of memory and short-term memory. Things get lost in the shuffle. So like the realist in me, the somewhat pessimist in me is like, maybe nothing. If I'm wrong, cool.
Those 5 loyal viewers are gonna be like,
they're gonna get
we're
us.
gonna prove you wrong.
Those 6 people's lives are changed.
Yeah.
I really hope that is what happens.
Yeah, our 6 loyal viewers. Yeah, we can just, I don't know.
I mean, there was a teacher that we asked, my old 3rd grade teacher, and she said she didn't want to be part of it, but for us to send her the link so she could show it to her students. We're gonna bleep this out.
It's like the girl from, what's that show called? Is it Fish? It's something. Fish Hooks?
Oh my gosh,
What's her
yes!
name? She's a little clamshell.
I
Do you
know.
know what Fish Hooks
I
is?
have no idea.
It's okay,
So
so it's a
cultured.
clam and it's got lips. And it's like, it has like this Valley Girl accent. No, it's so good.
This is where we needed video, so you
Yeah, I'll put it in. I forgot her name.
Snap, girl. I think you dropped something. My jaw.
Look, I just gave you.
Her name is something silly. It's like Plamela or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's something silly.
It's so weird. You should, that's your homework after this.
Yeah, watch
Looking
Fish
up
Hooks
Fish Hooks.
seasons 1 through 3.
All parents about our 4th grade Christmas concert. That's December 5th in the Australia Elementary Gym.
Bro, we're gonna have to cut that out.
Podcast without a plug.
Can I bleep it out?
You can just cut off
In the blank area?
Yeah, I'll just like, yeah.
Yeah, right in there. I'll look up this clam.
I'll put in like,
Speaks in a Valley Girl accent.
yeah, I'll put in like Juice WRLD type beat for the last 4 minutes.
Anyways, we gotta cut this off. Well, thank you
You're
for
welcome.
being on
Yeah.
here and listening.
This project goes well for you and is fruitful and also whatever this is.
I hope your students, I'm gonna actually force you to play this for your students.
Yeah.
And so they can make fun of you when you don't know what Fish Hooks is.
What is this, 40? We're at 50 minutes? No.
We're cutting the last, we're cutting
They're not
the
our
last
attention span.
You got about 4 good minutes out of them on a podcast.
Yeah.
We'll see the highlights.
That's why we're making TikToks, honestly.
What's that thing on TikTok where it's the guy like the running game thing underneath it?
Oh!
That way? Yeah, that's-
We should actually.
I was gonna say we should do like rage bait. Like we should start the video with like something like I don't know, just anything to grab people's attention. Then just start a podcast. People do that with their music. People do that with their music.
Yeah.
We're so smart. We're gonna do
We're
that.
so smart.
We're gonna have this.
We're like
We're all doing the thing. We're gonna get so much money. Anyways, thank you. We got it's fine. Oh, anyways, we are gonna cut this off. This is Mr. Younkin.
Yeah. Woo!
All right, so we're gonna cut this off because we have another teacher interview. Whoa!